thought I'd make a little video for you today that will hopefully help you on your journey to becoming a more productive writer. Now, I say journey for a reason because I do believe that this will take time, and that will be the same for everybody because it's such a personal thing. You'll need time to figure out what works perfectly for you. My first piece of advice would be to experiment with different ideas, implement them into your routine and see whether they work for you. I started to try and write first thing in the morning before work or any other commitments I had going on that day, but I soon figured out that it just didn't work for me. I wasn't inspired at that time of day. It was a little bit frustrating at first, but then I started to try and write slightly later on in the day or in the evening, and I found that I was much more productive then and created better quality work. So there really was no use in fighting that. So try writing at different times of day and see what works best for you. I think it's really important to keep yourself accountable. It can be so easy to lose sight of your goal unless you're checking in with yourself regularly. I keep a spreadsheet where I record my word count each time I write, whether that's for 10 minutes or an hour. What this does is it really motivates me because when I look back, I can see how every single time I sat down to write, it contributed towards my goal. It can be very difficult to keep focused sometimes, especially when you've got lots of things going on in your life or you've got lots of tasks that you need to complete that day. What I do is I set timers throughout the day, even for say half an hour or an hour at a time, and then I know that I can sit at my computer for that amount of time and write. And when the timer goes off, I stop and either focus my attention on another task or take a break. And that's another thing that timers are really good for, making sure that you do take breaks, because I find that it's so easy to get wrapped up in writing the story, and sometimes you can feel a bit negative towards what you've just written and think maybe you should start all over again. But all it takes a lot of the time is just to step away and then come back with fresh eyes, and then you see that maybe you need to make a few changes, or you might not need to change anything at all. And then you can just move forward from there rather than deleting the whole paragraph and starting all over again. I personally think it's so important to celebrate small successes along the way. It can be so easy to start thinking that you need to complete your goal as soon as possible, otherwise somehow it won't be as much of an achievement when you do. But that's simply not true. Whether it takes you 5 months or 5 years, once you've completed it, you'll still get the same sense of achievement and satisfaction. So don't get caught up in the feeling that it's a race. Whether you write 1 paragraph in a day or 1 chapter, celebrate it all the same. I would strongly suggest that you spend some time writing something else. That seemed a bit silly to me originally, because I thought that any spare time that I had should be spent on my novel rather than something completely unrelated. I'm part of a writers group, and we recently had to write a 2,500 word short story for a competition. I wasn't even sure whether I was going to take part at first because I felt like my time should be spent on my novel instead. But when I did write the story, I felt so inspired, and I'm even considering using it as a basis for a full-length novel in the future. So it's a great way to generate new ideas for future projects. Even if you didn't want to write a short story, for example, you could Google some word prompts and then write a few paragraphs based on those. One thing that's important to think about is your environment. I personally write best when I'm in a room on my own with music playing. Somehow the music enables me to switch off from anything else that I might have been thinking about and focus entirely on my writing. But for you, you might need silence, or you might like the background noise of a cafe. So try different environments out and see which enables you to be the most productive. You could also consider building yourself a network, whether that's online or in person, it's totally up to you. There are plenty of groups on Facebook, and I'm sure there would be groups in your local community. I think both of these have different benefits. The resources online are excellent, especially if you're facing a particular problem, because you can search for that, and I'm sure that there'll be answers from people who have overcome that particular issue. Meeting people in person is always great, and they may have some things that they will be able to share with you too, like local competitions or events that you might be interested in. It's important to be open-minded about your routine. It might work out great for you for the first few months, but then after that, certain aspects might need tweaking or changing altogether, and that's fine. We all change over time, and our lifestyles do as well, so our routines will have to adapt to accommodate that. Try and accept your current state of mind as much as you can. You might have the odd day, month, year where you just feel like you can't sit down and write. And that's perfectly okay. I think everyone goes through periods of feeling uninspired throughout their life. I don't really think you can avoid that. So just try and accept it as much as you can. You could try things to work through it. For example, you could do research instead of writing, so that when you do come back to writing, you've got some ideas to work from. If you're feeling really uninspired, I would suggest that you read. Reading is amazing at getting your creativity going, and you can submerge yourself in someone else's imaginary world until you feel ready to create your own. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful, and please do comment below if you've got any other ideas that you think might help other people. Please subscribe as well so that you can keep up to date with my content. Enjoy the rest of your day.